What is good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And today, I got two special guests. I don't really know what to say. I got Tony from Protech Sports, someone who you guys know pretty well from being on the channel in the past, and he makes great content in the Washington football team YouTube community. And I have a special guest here, and the special guest is my good friend Paul. He knows everything about the NFL, knows everything about the NBA, and been wanting to have him on for a long time, and lucky to have him on tonight. And we have a lot to talk about, man. We have the Washington football team, obviously, that's in the name of the title of the stream. But we have a lot of news around the NBA, the NFL in general. So with that being said, let's get started right away with the Wizards, actually. I was wondering, what are you guys' thoughts on the Wizards winning streak that was snapped last night, unfortunately, but it was a 5-game winning streak. And do you think they can potentially rack up some W's and potentially vie for the number 8 spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs? And we'll start with Paul.
So I'm going to preface this by saying I would love to see the Wizards in the playoffs, especially in the NBA. What matters in the playoffs is star power. We saw this with the Lakers. They didn't win the championship because Danny Green was hitting threes, because Kuzma was playing well. They won because of LeBron. They won because of Anthony Davis. So to see the Wizards with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook and a personal favorite of mine, the Latvian Laser, the Baltic Bomber, who can get quite hot from three, could dramatically alter a playoff series. But I do not think they will make the playoffs, nor even the play-in games. And let me tell you why. Even now, after the winning streak, they're at an atrocious 11-18. And even though there are only 4 teams in the East that have a winning record right now, there are a lot of teams still out of the playoff contention. For example, the Heat, that are going to pick it up later in the season. For example, the Celtics, I think, are the 6th seed right now, but they're going to pick it up. Orlando was a playoff team last year. They're going to pick it up. And then on top of that, the Wizards have one of the hardest schedules. We just got the schedule drop a couple hours ago today. So it's going to be really hard. So unfortunately, I do not think so. But I would love for them to slide in with the 10 seed in the play-in tournament.
Okay. Tony, what are your thoughts?
The Washington Wizards. Well, do I think they're gonna make the postseason? No. They're gonna get mighty close. I think getting the play-in game. I think I should get that far. I just don't see them getting in, but if they got in, they do have the star power, like Paul did state, with Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook, and Mr. Bertans bombing from Brooklyn all over the daggone place. But I hope they do. Like Paul said, I hope they do. I think they can get dangerous if they could actually get it together. They just don't get it together. It's like one night Bill has it and Westbrook is bricking, and then the other nights it's more Westbrook bricking and more Bill just taking the team on his back. Like, Russell, you can't do it. I do it myself. I'm doing myself. I'm tired. And it's like, come on, like they traded John Wall to get this to that, but it's not to happen. It happened anyway. Wizards. Oh gosh, man. I feel bad for Wizards fans. I feel sorry for y'all. Very sorry. Very sorry.
Yeah, man. Wizards haven't been good for a minute. But in terms of their postseason hopes, so I was in the same boat as both of you guys, actually, just like a week ago, to be honest. But after seeing the Wizards rack up some W's, obviously they lost big last night, but after seeing them rack up some W's, and Russell Westbrook, who I said a couple of weeks back is the X factor on this team, if he starts going, gets going with this team, then the Wizards have a very good chance of making it in the postseason. And at this point, I agree with you guys in the sense that I don't think they'll eventually make it to like the postseason, right? When it comes to like the 8 teams. But in terms of the play-in tournament, I think they will make it into the tournament. I just think Russell Westbrook, he's shown me some positive signs over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, early in the season, had a very, very slow start, and everybody was like, what were we thinking? Trading John Wall away and a first-round pick for Russell Westbrook and that $40 million contract that he has right now, right? But I mean, the last couple of weeks he's been on and given Bradley Beal for sure for some help, and also talked about the lot being laser, Paul. You know, he did have a record high in terms of 3-pointers made in a game a couple of weeks ago. So he's definitely starting to also, you know, really catch fire from the 3-point line, which we saw a lot last year as one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire NBA. But this year, slow start like Russell Westbrook after getting that $18 million per year contract. So I think the Wizards should rack up some W's over the next couple of weeks, but it's gonna be tough, man. I know, like Paul said, there aren't too many teams in the East that are above 500 right now, but there are a lot of teams that are very close together. So being one of those 8 teams, we'll see. But obviously, we're all hoping that they make it, especially with the dynamic duo of Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. Speaking of Bradley Beal, I was wondering, do you guys think he deserved to be an All-Star starter this year for the first time in his career? And we'll start with Tony.
Yes, of course, no question. The man is leading the league in scoring. Like you pencil him in. Like it's like Bradley Beal carries the team, all-star starter, pencil him in. I don't have to say no more than that, but he's been incredible. Like the fact that every night after night, this man's dropping 40, 45, 50, 35, 37, 31.
James Harden numbers, yep.
He just basically he's the Eastern Conference version of James Harden last year, just destroying the league, scoring the basketball. It's incredible. It's incredible. I never expected this from Bill when he came out of Florida 10 years ago. And it's just this man's a dog, bro. It's ridiculous. I don't say no more. Paul, go.
I have a slightly controversial opinion. I tend to disagree, and I think this is because the NBA All-Star Game is very ill-defined. Because it seems like half of the people say it's a popularity contest. Mm-hmm. Because on one hand, it is the fans and fellow players who choose the starters. So, of course, Bradley Beal getting atrociously snubbed last year, may I add, and now being the points leader is a great story. I mean, that's, ESPN cover story. Of course, people are going to vote him in as a starter.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that the voting, the player voting and the fan voting happened before the Wizards' recent win streak. So when Bradley Beal got voted in as the starter, the Wizards had an absolutely terrible record. And it really, really pains me to see Bradley Beal in as a starter over James Harden, who has been carrying the Nets lately, who, by the way, is averaging 11 assists per game, is the assist leader. So has dramatically changed his game, is on a favorite to win the championship versus Bradley Beal, who, granted, is putting up incredible numbers, but it's hard to argue that James Harden isn't a little bit more valuable than Bradley Beal and probably more deserving of the All-Star starting spot.
See, if James Harden was on the Rockets right now, I would agree with you. But the fact that he's on the Nets and he has a guy in KD who, while being injured the last couple of games, is still KD and is on his team. And he also has Kyrie Irving, another All-Star starter. I just don't think James Harden deserves an All-Star starter place, at least for this season. I just think Bradley Beal's been balling out since the jump, man. Like every single game, like Tony said, 30, 40, 50-plus points. It doesn't really matter. He is the Eastern Conference version of James Harden from last year. And I think, he single-handedly was carrying the Wizards to the few wins that they had early in the season. And he has been a big part of why they have sort of maybe kind of gotten back into the swing of things when it comes to Eastern Conference and the standings right now. So I think Bradley Beal definitely deserved the spot. Like Paul said as well last year, an egregious snub, right? Like almost as bad as Devin Booker in the Western Conference right now, which we'll get to a little bit later. But it was a terrible snub. And fortunately, he's in the All-Star game this year, and he's a starter no less. So big things out of Bradley Beal, and you love to see that, man. He's probably the best basketball player the Wizards have had since Gilbert Arenas. I mean, it's been a while. I'm even gonna go past John Wall. Like, I really believe what Bradley Beal is doing right now, man. He's putting on a show. And what, Tony? You think I'm wrong?
That's a bold statement. I'm not gonna disagree with you. Like, overall player, like overall player, like Wall at his best, I would take Lee slightly. He's a more complete player. He's a better passer, things like that. But like scoring wise, I have to agree with you. Like we never seen nothing like this in Hibachi. Okay, we never seen nothing like this in Hibachi. And Hibachi was a monster. So I agree. Scoring wise, wholeheartedly. John Wall could not score the way Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal could score John Wall's points in the sleep. It's scary. So we agree. Yeah. And one more thing, Paul. I get what you said about James Harden. I understand wholeheartedly. But, bro, he's on the Nets. They're going to win a champ. Bro, it's too much star power in that team for him not to be successful. Like, you gave Bradley Beal that. He would have to say that was just Harden. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem with the All-Star team. Because I also don't really understand why Kevin Durant is a starter and team captain, having missed so many games this year.
Yeah. It's a popularity contest.
It is just a popularity contest, and Bradley Beal has the best, one of the best stories.
Anthony Davis making it to the All-Star team, replaced with Devin Booker, but he still made it, with his injury-plagued year. And even before that, a lot of people don't talk about it, was actually super inefficient to start the season, had a lot of bad games this year, so I don't understand the nomination, even if he was healthy, to be honest. But, with the All-Star team that has fully been announced, right, with the reserves being announced yesterday, before getting into, of course, the Washington football team talk, right, which is why a lot of people are watching right now, and probably wondering why aren't we at that point right now, but I do want to start off the stream really light. And with the All-Star team, I was wondering, what are you guys' thoughts on the teams as constructed? Obviously, again, Devin Booker has replaced Anthony Davis since I pretty much made these notes. But what are your thoughts on the teams? Do you think anybody got snubbed egregiously, much like Bradley Beal last year? And we'll start with Paul on this one.
So let me just point out, I am thankful that Devin Booker is in the All-Star game. Thankful.
Thank God.
But for the second year in a row, it takes an injury. Are you kidding me? The absolute disrespect. And I understand that the coaches are always going to go with veterans, which is why Chris Paul got chosen over him. But the fact that they're on the same team, the Suns are currently solidly the 4th seed in the West. I just don't understand how the leader of your team doesn't get picked.
Yeah.
And instead you have Chris Paul. It's just absolutely shocking. And of course, in the East, I also think the Ben Simmons pick is a little bit atrocious. One thing that the All-Star team, and people have said that the coaches love to reward players with All-Star reserve spots who have progressively gotten better and who are showing improvement. But in Ben Simmons' game, what is his biggest weakness? He just cannot shoot. He cannot score the ball.
I mean, you could say the same thing about Giannis. He hasn't really improved. I mean, I know he's won the MVP, obviously. He's arguably the best player in the league.
He can shoot better than Ben.
Exactly. And he could do everything else better other than passing.
Okay.
I think Ben Simmons
natty.
Yeah.
I think it was a little extraneous, especially when you have a player like Sabonis, who in my opinion, averaging in the 20s, averaging almost 10 rebounds. He's almost averaging a double-double, leading the Pacers to the 4th seed in the East. I don't really understand why they don't get a nod, but, once again, it is a popularity contest, and it's, Ben Simmons, big with the celebrity girlfriends versus Sabonis in Indianapolis. Of course, they're going to pick Ben Simmons every time. So,
yeah. Great points, Paul. But Tony, do you have any other points or pretty much anything?
I completely agree with Paul. First of all, I love CP3. I'm a big Chris Paul fan. He's my favorite player in the NBA to this day. I love Chris Paul. But no, why in the heck did he get chosen over freaking Devin Booker? Why it takes an injury for Devin Booker to be in the All-Star game? It's egregious, disrespectful. It's ridiculous. It's blasphemous. Get out of here. Bull crap. Next. I like Ben Simmons too, and I'm a Sixers fan, so I'm being completely unbiased. Here about Ben Simmons. Pisses me off. He should not be on an All-Star team anyway. No, he's playing okay, but it's like no. He wasn't worth it this year. Like I think they're going off the history of Ben and Ben being Ben. He's not Ben this year. Like I don't know what Ben Simmons I'm watching, but No.
You know why? You know why? Because someone who will talk about in the MVP conversation has been stepping up big time.
Yeah. Mr. Big Man.
Yeah.
Big man on campus. Shout out to Joel Embiid. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
But that's all I got for y'all, man. Ben should not be an all-star game, bro. That's bull crap. That's cap. Bull crap.
First and foremost, the Devin Booker. I'm at a loss for words as to why he wasn't named an all-star starter this year, or at least named to the all-star team. Period. Let alone starter. And I'll also say with Ben Simmons, definitely agree with Paul. Made a very good point. Sabonis, I mean, he was an all-star last year, I believe, and he definitely deserved to be an all-star this year as well. I will say someone who, and then Chris Paul as well. Okay, so when I first saw that the reserves were announced and I saw Chris Paul's name on there, I was like, okay, Chris Paul, okay, I understand. Those Suns have a very good record and all that. Looked at his stats, 16 points a game, 7 assists, and I was like, oh. But then I realized I'm not going to be one of those people who just looks at stats and thinks, oh, you know what? Chris Paul hasn't really produced this year. He doesn't deserve an all-star spot. When you look at the improvement that the Phoenix Suns have had with Chris Paul in his first year, they are what? 4th in the Western Conference right now, about a game and a half back from the Lakers, 2 games back from the Clippers. I mean, Chris Paul is a big reason why. So I don't understand all the hate for, him being an all-star reserve this year. I think he definitely deserved a spot. But I also think Devin Booker deserved a spot as well. And I would have replaced Anthony Davis with Devin Booker without the injury, right? So that I agree with you guys on those points. I will say someone else two people who were both named to the All-Star team, but one was a starter, one was a reserve, which I absolutely disagreed with, was the Damian Lillard being a reserve for like Luka Doncic being a starter. I just don't agree with that. I mean, Paul talked about recognition and the supermodel girlfriends and all that with Ben Simmons. I mean, Luka Doncic has international recognition. I feel like that played a huge part in him being named an all-star starter this year because he would even admit that Damian Lillard has had a better season. Damian Lillard definitely deserves an all-star starter spot in the Western Conference. He is one of, if not the best guards in the NBA right now. And Luka Doncic, I know everybody remembers what the amazing performance that he had last year in the bubble, and I'll give you that. But when it comes to this season, the Mavericks aren't hot right now, and to be honest, Doncic isn't really hot at all this year as well. So I think he definitely deserves a spot on the All-Star team, but just not as a starter. But with that being said, I do want to get to lastly with the NBA, the MVP conversation. And so we have a pretty good, I would say, two-headed race right now in Joel Embiid and LeBron James. I was wondering if you guys think Joel Embiid or LeBron James is the front runner at this point, or if you have any other guy that you think should be at the top right now in terms of MVP contenders at this point in the season. We'll start with Tony this time.
Well, I know Earl always LeBron fan. Like, LeBron need to win it. LeBron. Look, LeBron is definitely the front runner. I know they're on a three game losing streak, but they don't have Dennis Schroeder. They don't have AD. I get it, so I can let it slide. They don't have their horses. It's just Braun and Kuzma. They can't win with that all the time. Like, just no. So, I do say LeBron's the front runner, but Joel Embiid is on him like white on rice. Joel Embiid is on him, and I hope and cross fingers that he wins the MVP because this man has been balling out of control. Like, oh my God. Me watching my Sixers this year, I'm just like I'm in awe. I'm like, this is Joel Embiid I've been waiting for. This is Joel Embiid I've been waiting for through all the injuries, through all the crap I've been waiting for. And yep, Donovan Mitchell should be in it too, low key, but it's a two-man race. Two-man race.
Okay.
Braun and Embiid, and right now Braun's the front runner. But yeah, and I could. By the way, the whole All-Star thing, I definitely agree with you. Logo Lillard should have been a starter. They cheated him on that. But never talk for none of that. I'm done. Yeah, Embiid should hopefully will win it, but Braun's gonna probably win it though, because it's Braun. This is Braun. So.
I think we're at an interesting point in sports media and fans when it comes to LeBron, because for so many years he could have just won the MVP. He was by far the most valuable player in the league.
Should have.
He should have, correct. Yeah. But he didn't, because they're giving it to new players. But it seems like since the Lakers won the championship, we've sort of come around. Yeah. And now it's all these apologists saying, well, LeBron should have won before. But I personally don't think the argument for LeBron is as great this year, especially in their past couple of games. There have been some sort of live mistakes, for example, giving up the final shot, missing free throws late in the game, stuff that fans will watch and hold against him. The classic LeBron is not clutch. Yeah. So I think Joel Embiid will win the MVP, and I think it will be well-deserved, but it is really unfortunate for LeBron because there were so many years he should have won, but I still don't think that justifies giving it to him this year. Yeah. And also, on the logo Lillard point, I've heard this said a couple times around, by talking heads, but the Portland games are always so late at night. So for fans on the East Coast, they have to stay up till midnight to watch Damian Lillard hit these game-winning shots from nearly half court. And by that point, you're half asleep on the couch. So when the All-Star starters is a popularity contest and, half of sports fans aren't watching Damian Lillard ball out and be one of the clutchest shooters in the NBA, I think that really hurts him, unfortunately.
Yeah, that does hurt, though. I can agree with that, Paul. Because it's like, we see Luka at 8 p.m. We're asleep, and we see Damian Lillard hit game one in the morning. Yay, Damian Lillard! But like, we'll just pick Luka. We see Luka play more. Just
You got to wait on early morning notifications. Yeah, Lillard just hit a game winner at night or something.
Lillard, do it again.
Yeah, I agree. Once again, I will say on the MVP points, I mean, Paul knows this especially, but Tony a little bit less so, but he knows this as well. I respect LeBron James so much, man. I think he gets trashed way too much, man. If anything, if we learn anything from what happened, the sad tragedy that happened with like Kobe, I don't want to take these players for granted, man. I want to appreciate every one of these players. I try not to compare them, right? I mean, Paul and I have tried, with the GOAT conversation a little bit, but I try not to compare. I'm just try to appreciate these players and know that once they're gone, we're going to appreciate them so much more, and we're going to really miss them and their production on the court. So I really appreciate LeBron James and what he's done over the last, 18 seasons now. Still playing very high-end ball in the NBA. I will say, though, I actually 1,000% agree with Paul. I think he's definitely deserved to be the MVP in past seasons, but this season, man, Joel Embiid, man, 30 points, 11 rebounds, I believe, are his stats right now on a 76ers team that is number one in the Eastern Conference after dealing with some troubles last year, right, with the previous regime and all that. This year, first year with Doc Rivers, got to give him credit as well, but Joel Embiid has just reached another level, and Ben Simmons hasn't, right, which makes it even more impressive that the 76ers are where they are right now. So I think Joel Embiid at this point in time should and will actually be the MVP by the time the season concludes. Although if AD comes back relatively soon and LeBron just goes on his typical tear at the very end of the season, I could see LeBron James being the front runner in very short order. But those are our takes on the MVP conversation, MVP front runners at this point. But I see everybody in the chat. Thank you guys all for coming out and supporting. I see Outlaw Kings, Tone. Yes, Beal definitely deserved this position. Derek Hawkins as well, and Brandon as well. But now, the title of the stream, Washington Football Team Weekly. We're gonna get to the Washington Football Team. So first and foremost, man, oh my gosh, I can't wait until I deliver my take on this. But what do you make of this Alex Smith GQ story that came out yesterday, I believe, where it talks about Washington didn't really want to welcome him back on the field and welcome him back in the fold with this organization, and essentially doing him wrong this offseason leading up to his first appearance back after 2 years out of action. And we'll start with Tony on this one, Washington Football Team YouTube.
Ooh, oh my gosh. All right. First off, I get where Alex is coming from to a certain extent. He got traded here. He got the big money here. He had the first little 11 games and got hurt. And he expected to be welcome back. He got all his money on his contract. He's better come back and open arms, right? Wrong. New regime, no open arms for you. You got to earn it. Actually, we don't think you're going to come back. I mean, and I get from the team standpoint. And from the fan standpoint, too, it's like you had 18 surgeries on your leg. Who in the heck thought you were going to walk, let alone play football again? Like, I would
it takes it personally that, like, the organization was just being, like, realist, right? Like, or being realistic with the odds of him coming back. But,
like, I would take a reference to the movie You Got Served if you watch it before. But when the guy walked in the car, he's like, "Yeah, man, I got your money, man." He said, "What?" He said, "I'm gonna make sure I break your leg. You won't walk, let alone dance again." JJ Watt broke his leg. Said, "You ain't gonna walk. I don't play football again." My leg, yeah. So that happened to Alex. But no one expected him to play again. I was like, nah, man. And when Rocket said, "Don't forget about Alex Smith," I'm like, Alex Smith? No. What? Get out of here. Man, ain't playing no football. Football? What? Get out of here. So the fact, like, that no one actually thought he was going to play again, like, he should understand that. And he kept saying, well, it's a new regime, so I get why they have an attitude. They not have an attitude, but they have a reason to not believe he's going to play again because new regime, he's leftovers. According to him, leftovers.
Yeah.
So I get all three sides, but I'm taking the team on this one. Who in the hell thought he's playing football again? I don't understand why Alex feels. I mean, I get why he feels this way because he got the money and he got traded here and he was walking with open arms with the old regime and he comes back. The new regime doesn't walk with open arms. So I get how he feels and why he feels that way. But he also had to understand the team they drafted Dwayne Haskins Jr. for a reason. Obviously. The writing was on the wall. They didn't think you were coming back. They thought you were coming back. Why would they use the 15th pick on a quarterback thinking you're going to come back, Alex?
Yeah.
Come on, son.
Yeah.
The writing's on the wall. It's not that hard to read. Come on, get out your feelings. Stop crying a little B word and just shut up. I don't want to hear that. Stop. Stop it, Alex, okay? Dang, man, I can't wait to cut this board. I'm tired.
Again, can't wait until I go off. But go ahead, Paul.
Sports really, really rides the fine line between, you have to work harder, you have to be better, versus it's a ruthless business. So like we already said, I understand Alex Smith's position, but at the same time, when you're watching Washington football team play and he's in there at quarterback, you're gasping every time the pocket breaks down. It's not like the fans were dying for him to be back there under center. Like, I was almost scared for him watching those somewhere, but I was almost scared watching those games. So in a sense, it didn't make as much sense to me, but that was just my opinion. If he had more fans on his side, I would be a little more sympathetic. But it seems like the fans at that point had moved on, and it was almost as a novelty. Like, he's comeback player of the year. He wasn't in there necessarily to be winning games in the eyes of the fans. But
Agreed. I'll start off by saying Paul and I do have a mutual friend that we know and love that does love himself some Alex Smith. But as Paul knows, I am not in that boat whatsoever. Alex Smith, you were getting paid $20+ million this year, okay? $20+ million last year, okay? Don't complain, okay? Like, I understand. We all love you. Comeback player of the year, obviously. Deserved, of course. But for you to call out the team for thinking you wouldn't come back and to really just brush it off, right? Like, why are you blaming the team? Most people around the league did not think you were going to come back, okay? The fact that you came back was amazing, right? But for you to, like, come out this offseason and make these remarks after putting up 6 touchdowns and 8 picks this year, that kind of stat line, 1,500 yards in 6 starts? Admittedly, 5-1 record. Everyone loves to throw that around. 5-1 record. This man is a winner. Again, literally, if you watch every single Alex Smith Washington football team game since 2018, watch every single minute of those games. It's the defense that carries us to wins during those games. And then people are going to bring up the point, okay, but Dwayne Haskins was playing earlier in the season, right? Why didn't we win when he was playing? Ladies and gentlemen, Dwayne Haskins is a whole different situation. He's not an NFL quarterback at this point. maybe we'll see him become that NFL quarterback. I'm rooting for him. He is the DMV product, right? Always got to root for the hometown guys, but he is not an NFL starting quarterback at this point, right? So I did not think Alex Smith had a great season, right? Obviously, he had a great season in the sense that he came back from however many surgeries he came back from and almost lost his life. And again, kudos to him, man. I will always appreciate the season that he put out this year, coming back from that sort of injury. But at the same time, we got to be realistic. We got to be honest with ourselves and say that Alex Smith was not the reason why we won those games. And you know, maybe in a couple of months we won't have Alex Smith be a quarterback on the Washington football team anymore. Looks like we are going to cut him, especially with the remarks that he's made, and save a bunch of cap money. Brandon even brought it up, cap money that we'll save by cutting him. And it just makes too much sense to cut him, really, because of the fact that we'll save so much money. And I promise you we will be aggressive this offseason. So definitely think that his days in DC are numbered, especially after these comments. But moving off from the Alex Smith topic, I do want to get to the quarterback position as a whole, and who do you think Washington is actually going to acquire at this point in time? And obviously there have been rumors swirling around about Sam Darnold and Derek Carr, and we'll talk a little bit later about where we see each one of those quarterbacks going. But in terms of Washington, who do you think Washington will get, and who do you think will be the starting quarterback come week 1? And we'll start with Paul this time.
So this is a very complicated situation because, in my opinion, the Texans have a stranglehold on the quarterback situation because obviously everyone would want Deshaun Watson, but the Texans are a very poorly run organization. They're extremely stubborn, and teams are going to wait. And whatever Deshaun Watson trade, if it happens, that will set the pick. And something that I would like to see for the Washington football team would be to bring on Gardner Minshew Mania, and to have a competition for the starting quarterback job. Now, this idea does not sound fun for the fans at first because it's a lot of drama. But I do think it is not only a realistic option, but it could work out because with two extremely hardworking guys who've had to scrap for everything they've gotten in the league, Gardner Minshew and Heineke, I think you, at the very least, will expect one of them to overperform expectations. So I think that's just a realistic situation. Probably not ideal, but I think it could have very good outcomes. I mean, imagine a playoff team led by Gardner Minshew and Minshew Mania in the playoffs. I mean, could you imagine with this defense? I mean, that would be scary if he's on fire.
Scary. I mean, I wasn't thinking scary in terms of him being on fire, but scary as in him throwing picks. But go ahead, Tony. Who do you think?
Paul, you beat me to it. Darn you. I'm like, damn you. Damn it. You beat me to it. All right. So I can't say Gardner Minshew. You said it. Darn it. Okay. Oh crap. All right. Well, I'm gonna take the kind of the approach no one wants to take, which is the RG3 approach. All right, just crying about RG3 trade. Look, Zach Wilson, damn it. All right, Zach Wilson. All right, that's it. God. I don't care. No, go to 19-3. I don't care. Go from 19-3. Give them whatever. Give the Dolphins whatever the heck they want, and get Zach Wilson, or trade for Gardner Minshew. But yeah, number one, go get Zach Wilson. If the Jets are stupid enough to build around Sam Darnold, which I hope they are dumb enough to do, because I hope they are, that would be nice. That's stupid. They take whoever at 2, Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase, fill in the blank. And the Miami Dolphins on the draft quarterback, they're sitting there with Tua, and they have the third pick. We can just trade up, get whatever the freaking Dolphins want, and get Zach Wilson, and I'll be happy. Okay, I don't care if it's 2-1, 2-2. I don't care. Just give it up. Just give it up. But if not, the most realistic one, I have to agree with Paul. Gardner Minshew. Now, I know people are like, oh, Gardner Minshew stinks. The man threw for 5,500 yards in 2 years, 37 touchdowns, and 11 picks. That's actually not half bad, in my opinion. That's Kirk Cousins numbers.
No, we don't talk about him. We don't talk about him.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks this past season. It's not half bad. I'm 3-1 ratio. Just saying. Gardner Minshew, I think he's an upgrade over Heineke and Kyle Allen. And I think he's a solid starter. Is he a franchise quarterback? Probably not. I'll be honest, but he's a solid starter. I think he's better than Marcus Mariota. You got to pay him $10 million. You're paying Gardner Minshew chump change, $800,000. I mean, I'd say Gardner Minshew in DC. I'm going with Paul on a realistic option, but I want Zach Wilson personally.
Okay. Patrick West, shout outs to you.
I think to start week 1 will be Gardner Minshew. I'm agreeing with Paul. Minshew mania, man. Minshew mania.
Okay. Man, Gardner Minshew is such a solid quarterback that he got benched by the 1-15 Jacksonville Jaguars last year.
Do not believe this is blasphemy. He was.
You know this
exactly. Gardner Minshew was a winner. That's why he was benched. He was benched because he's a winner.
Oh, so they were trying to.
They won.
Oh wow!
He won the only game they won.
Go watch the Week 1 game versus the Colts. The Colts. They beat the Colts. Watch the game. He was crazy. They benched him because he's a winner. They benched him because he's a winner.
Because he's a winner. Yeah.
But I get where he's going with.
Yeah, I will never forget how their social media team after that Week 1 win was like 1 win, but we're not done yet. And that was the only win that they got for the entire season. But we'll save our roasting for the Jaguars for later. But in my opinion, I think the Week 1 starter, the Washington football team, will be Marcus Mariota. I think Marcus Mariota will be the Week 1 starter of the Washington football team. Super Mario, yes. If you guys watched the last couple of games from the Las Vegas Raiders last season, Marcus Mariota was actually pretty good. I know he had a pick, but he was pretty good. He was pretty good. And I think my thing with Marcus Mariota is that I think the reward will far outweigh the risk. The risk being probably trade a 5th-round pick, maybe 4th-round pick at best for Marcus Mariota, especially because he's a backup on the Raiders right now. And the reward is that we get Marcus Mariota finally being a solid quarterback in this league, a quarterback who will actually have, for the first time in his career, a system really built around him. Because in Tennessee, let's just say their offensive scheming wasn't too hot until Mike Vrabel, ironically enough, because he is a former defensive coordinator, came around and they had a whole different staff. And obviously we've seen what they have been doing with Derrick Henry, just running the ball all over opposing defenses. But if Marcus Mariota gets into the offense that we have right now, the very unique, innovative offense that we have right now with Scott Turner, with the Air Coryell scheme, I think Marcus Mariota could actually thrive. And you have to also consider that Ron Rivera, how many times, and whenever he's asked about the quarterback position, he always talks about mobility. And obviously that's where, Alex Smith and Ron Rivera sort of differ, right? Because Alex Smith was not very mobile whatsoever this season. It's very much a statue in the pocket with his injury history. But I just think Marcus Mariota would be a great fit. And if it doesn't work out, you will still have a very good quarterback competition going into the season with a guy like Kyle Allen, who a lot of people forget, but was actually the starter before Alex Smith was named the starter, right? He was just benched because he was injured. And then you also have Taylor Heineke, right? The playoff hero, the playoff GOAT that all of us love to talk about. And who can forget his diving touchdown against the Tampa Bay Bucks? But I think Marcus Mariota should be a guy that Washington should go after, and I think he will be the Week 1 starter. Although I do think a guy like Cam Newton, unfortunately, is gaining steam as a starter here in DC with the interview that he recently had with Chad Ochocinco and of all people, and Brandon, the wide receiver of all people as well, joining in for that. But yeah, I think he's definitely gaining steam as a possible name, and I think obviously Ron Rivera and Cam Newton always have that connection. But I think Marcus Mariota will be that guy come Week 1. Any thoughts on that?
I would not be shocked at all. Yeah. Like you said, the risk is only a 4th-round pick. Like what? Like, what 4th-round pick? Like, come on. Like, when last time we really hit in the 4th round with Jamison Crowder in 2015? Last time
speaking of, he should be back. Hopefully we re-sign him. Yeah.
Yes. Please, Jets, cut him. Please do more decisions.
On the cheap.
Please, Jets, cut him. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Jets. Another topic. So like we haven't hit a 4th-round pick in like 5 years, so it's like why not get that 4th-round pickup for Mariota? I'm not surprised about that. But I think it'd be even cheaper to get Minshew. You might get Minshew for a 7th-round pick. I'm just saying. But hey,
But I see more in Mariota. I see more potential in.
I think what makes Mariota better, and I can agree, his mobility. He's super mobile. He can get out of there, make plays outside the pocket, run. He still runs like Super Mario back in his rookie year. If we get Marcus Mariota, that second year Marcus Mariota, the one that is like, oh my gosh, he is on the way to being great. Yeah, I can agree with that. If we can get that guy, I'll sign up for that. I'll sign up for it.
B-Nizzle. Man, B-Nizzle's the GOAT, man. I appreciate always the support. But I'm sorry, man. You're off on this one. I'm sorry. I'm being honest. Alex Smith. How many times do I have to say this? 6 touchdowns, 8 picks. Of course, everybody knows him as the game manager, right? Which he was in 2018. I'll give you that. But he was turning the ball over this season. Like, we got to be honest, right? Like, everybody thinks of him as the guy that is, check down Alex, right? Which he was. But he was also, in addition, turning the ball over, which cannot happen out of the quarterback position. So I just think Marcus Mariota, in my opinion, 1 is the better quarterback at this point, and 2 is better in terms of what Ron Rivera and the offensive coaching staff is looking for, right? And I think that's all that matters, right? So I think Marcus Mariota, I think he has a greater chance of being on this roster than Alex Smith at this point. I'll say that. But moving on from the quarterback position, I do want to get to some other news. Not really news, but some other talk around the Washington football team. And that is, some other non-quarterbacks that you think Washington should acquire in free agency. And when I say non-quarterbacks, I mean receivers, linebackers, any sort of players that you think would be good fits in DC outside of the quarterback position. And we'll start with Tony this time.
All right. This is probably my last thing. I think I got to get back to work.
No problem. So this is literally the last Washington football team question too. So timing was perfect. But go ahead.
Yes, sir. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a couple guys real quick. I think I would want Matt Milano, linebacker from the Bills. Great coverage linebacker, not the best tackler, but really good coverage guy. I'd like to get Jamison Crowder if the Jets were to cut him and make more bad decisions. If not, Jamison Crowder, Curtis Samuel, or Zach Pascal. Take the budget route, or even Rashard Higgins from the Browns. Guys I'm looking at. This is non-quarterbacks, right? So, cornerback, I'd like to re-sign Ronald Darby. If not, I don't know about cornerback. No. Yeah, I already re-signed Ronald Darby.
The MV product, you got to.
And maybe if you want to spend money at safety, which is something that Ron very usually doesn't do, maybe Anthony Harris or Marcus Williams. I personally prefer Marcus Williams, but if not him, definitely Anthony Harris is fine. And that's pretty much about it. And any tackle that's available, like maybe Darryl Williams from the Bills, and move Morgan Moses left tackle to get that upgrade left tackle. That's pretty much about it for me, though.
Paul, any thoughts?
I would have to agree. I like that you mentioned so many defensive players, because as a Bears fan, we had such a stifling defense, but that was so much inconsistency last season at quarterback, and then your defense starts to struggle. And I think part of that is you don't want to focus too much on the wide receivers. Obviously, it'd be great if you had like an Allen Robinson, a Will Fuller, or a Jamison Crowder addition. But I think it's much more important for a team like Washington football team, double down on defense. Make sure you re-sign guys and look for defensive guys, not just big name, wide receivers. So I think that's just the key. You have to be careful with that one. And I know the fans like offense better, but it's a defensive team. It needs to stay that way.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I know, Tony, whenever you have to go, you can hop off, no problem. But in terms of my thoughts on players that should be here in DC, I will say though, Tony, he just left, but I will say though, with the safety position, for all the people in the chat, we already have $15-16 million tied up in Landon Collins, right? Who's underproducing at the safety position. So I just don't agree with the idea that we should spend a lot more money on top of the amount of money that we already have spent on the safety position and really the secondary as a whole, because we obviously have Kendall Fuller, 10 years, $10 million a year. And we also have Ronald Darby, who will likely resign as well. won't be too cheap, right? Maybe $8 or $9 million a year. So I just don't agree with that take. I will say, though, there's two guys that I want on this team. I will trade. Well, I mean, they're free agents. So I'll spend as much money as possible. It doesn't really matter. And one guy, Patrick West and I, my friend, we're on the same wavelength. Middle linebacker, and that guy's Lavonte David, the guy that absolutely balled out on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champions, was a pivotal part in them really making it to the Super Bowl and ultimately winning it. He would be a great fit here. I know he's on the wrong side of 30 right now, but reminds me a lot of London Fletcher, who we brought a couple years back, who actually had sort of a resurgence in his 30s. And I think Lavonte David doesn't have too much wear and tear on his body. So I think he would be a great fit here. Very explosive, great speed, great power, everything you need out of a starting middle linebacker. And he would be a great fit here in DC alongside Cole Holcomb and some other linebackers that we have. I will say the other guy who Paul knows very, very well, having watched him for the last couple of years, and we'll see if the Bears tag him. We'll see. But that guy is Allen Robinson, man. If Allen Robinson comes here to DC, Allen Robinson and Scary Terry McLaurin, our offense would just be light years ahead of what it is right now, no matter who's at quarterback, to be honest. And I think he would just be a great fit. We also have guys like Hunter Henry, who I know Paul had on his fantasy team last year, but someone who has been injured a lot. But at the same time, there are rumors around that he could potentially be a candidate for a spot on the Washington football team this upcoming season. Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, some other receivers. And yeah, I mean, even if we don't re-sign Ronald Darby, we could also go after a guy like Richard Sherman. I don't know what your thoughts are on in terms of how many years he has left in the NFL, but we could go after a guy like Richard Sherman if we really want to win now, win for the next, 2 years, because he said he was going to be around for maybe 2 years at most. So, I mean, if we don't spend the money on Darby, maybe you could get Sherman for the cheap. And he wasn't too bad last year. I know he's been injury riddled the last couple of years, but what are your thoughts on that, Paul?
I'm not as much of a believer in Richard Sherman anymore, mostly because I think you're going to have to spend too much to get him for his age, for his recent play, and for his injuries. So in that sense, I don't think it's worth it unless, like you said, we're going to be competing right now. Yeah. So I'm not so sure about that. I will reiterate, the Allen Robinson fit is absolutely perfect, especially when you don't know for sure the quarterback situation. In Allen Robinson, we know he'll be consistent no matter who you throw in at quarterback.
Exactly like Terry.
Yeah. And the other thing about Terry is Terry will do anything. He will block for you. He will run downfield. He'll pancake guys. Yeah. So I think he would fit perfectly with Allen Robinson getting, the majority of targets. But I think more realistic would be Will Fuller, because I pray that Allen Robinson gets tagged. I pray he gets tagged.
Okay, let me ask you this as a Bears fan. Where are you guys going to get all the money from? Like, aren't you guys your salary cap situation is a mess right now, with that aging defense that you have? Khalil Mack, I know he's still a very good player in this league, but he's aging and he costs a lot of money. I mean, do you have enough money to even spend after a quarterback, let alone Allen Robinson? I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, I have a lot of thoughts about the Bears in general and about the direction of the team.
Yeah.
I also do not know where they're going to get the money. I really think they're going to have to cheap out on the quarterback position. I mean, that's the only thing. Yeah. And I think
maybe resign Mitch Trubisky.
There's no chance for okay, I shouldn't say that. But Nagy doesn't want him back. Half of the city doesn't want him back, other than our good friend John. Nobody wants him back in Chicago. So I don't think that'll be a good fit. We're going to have to cheap out on the quarterback position for sure. Mm-hmm. But man, if we let Allen Robinson go, the team has no chance. So we're going to have to make it happen. I don't care what has to be done. We have to do something to make the money work in that regard.
Yeah, I'm torn. I don't want to see Bears fans all sad next season when their offense does even worse, and I don't even know how that's possible. It does even worse than it did last year, and yeah. But keep in mind, he was on the table. We could have re-signed him for a multi-year deal, which makes me worried about what the Bears are thinking, because the franchise tag, you're going to end up paying him a lot of money for 1 year.
and then he's going to walk. Why didn't you sit down at the table and give him the contract earlier? So, maybe that's good news for Washington, but it's not good news for Chicago.
Yeah, agreed. We want to get to some comments. Yeah, Ronald Darby. I know his ties in the DMV are very, very tight. I know, yes, girlfriend's parents live in Raleigh. I heard about that. But really, his entire family is like in the DMV, and I mean, loves to rep Maryland, loves to rep the 301. So I think he'd be a great fit here in DC if he so chooses to return. And I think the money is right for him to return. Okay, you know what? Hail to the football team 445. Bringing up the guy, Tom Brady. I didn't even have him on my notes, but it doesn't really matter. He just won 7 Super Bowl. I predicted, but not happy about it. 7 Super Bowl. Count it. Okay, that's 4. That's 5, 6, 7. 7 Super Bowls. I'm just gonna ask you a really general question. Like, what are your thoughts on him capturing his 7th title? Do you think the Bucs are the favorites for next year's Super Bowl as well? How many years do you think Brady has left? And if you can, like, try to keep it short because we have try to get to like a couple more topics before for the end.
I'll just really quickly say it is amazing how Tom Brady literally elevates his team, makes people better around him. But one thing no one's been talking about, and I don't want to open the can of worms here, is at the beginning of the season, it was the Bill Belichick versus Tom Brady conversation. Was Tom Brady great because of Bill Belichick or vice versa? And all of a sudden, I don't hear anyone talking about that now. After the Patriots season, was the Patriots season, and Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl. I just wonder what people in New England think about that, what the sports media is talking about, because that seemed like the biggest story preseason. I haven't heard anything about it since, but
yeah. No, I agree, man. 7 Super Bowls. I just think it's so. I didn't even like factor this in a couple months ago when I was thinking about Tom Brady and his greatness, but this man's led the Tampa Bay Bucs, a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2003, albeit they do have some weapons. Led the Tampa Bay Bucs in his first year as a 43-year-old starting quarterback after spending 20 years for the New England Patriots, also in a COVID-shortened offseason. Winning a Super Bowl in his first year with all those circumstances around. Like, so much movement with the Tampa Bay Bucs in terms of guys they brought in, guys they brought out. And he still won. I will say this, though, on the Belichick versus Brady point. I mentioned this on like the debate show, the first episode of the debate show. I'm of the mindset where I don't think you can say Brady and Belichick. Like, I don't think it has to be mutually exclusive. I think you could say both of them are the GOATs at their respective positions. And I'm of that mindset. I think Bill Belichick, what he's done in the NFL, man. I mean, 7-9 with a quarterback in Cam Newton, who, we're going to be honest, is very much shot, like, in terms of his ability to throw the ball down the field and his accuracy. Is just, he's not what he was before. 7-9. Also, another thing that a lot of people forget, 9 guys on the Patriots in the offseason opted out because of COVID, right? And, like, I believe, 5 or 6 of them were starters on that defense. And remember, the defense
some
was
important players.
Yeah,
some really important players.
Yeah, Dante Hightower, I believe, Patrick Chung, like some really important players, man. And I just think Bill Belichick, I think he's already solidified his place as the GOAT when it comes to NFL coaches. I really do. When it comes to general managers, that's a whole different conversation. But coaches, he's the guy. And quarterbacks, I mean, quarterbacks and players, period, Brady's the guy at this point. I don't really think there's any debate for that. But having said that, I do want to get back to the NFL. And I do want to get to a couple of free agents before getting into the draft, and then one last question. So with some free agents, I want to give you 2 names and give me the destinations that you think they'll end up at by the start of the 2021 NFL season. And those 2 names, of course, are Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson. So where do you think those 2 players will end up by the time the season comes around? And any chance of them, potentially playing for any one of our teams?
You chose 2 very, very boring players, in my opinion. And I think I have a mental block when it comes to Dak Prescott. And I don't think I'll ever see him not in the Cowboys uniform. There's just something that fits there with him and Ezekiel Elliott that makes me think he'll stay, especially after an injury. The whole, Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones. I'm not sure about that whole situation, but I think he'll stay with the Cowboys. And Deshaun Watson, oh man, it is so unfortunate. He could have been a Bear. He's not going to. It's not going to happen. We messed it up already. But it is unfortunate for us, and it's unfortunate for him because the Texans are such a disastrously run organization.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be stubborn and they're going to keep him. I think the only team that even has a shot is Miami because they have that relationship when they traded for Tunsil last year. Yeah. And Miami sort of ripped off the Texans' first-round pick this year, which they can now use to trade, right back.
Yeah.
So I think Miami is the only destination that makes sense. But I still think it's unlikely. I just think the Texans are way too disorganized. The only thing that they know in that Texans organization is that Deshaun Watson's a generational talent. That's the only thing they seem to know. So they're going to hold on to him, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. Protech, before you let the stream completely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's again, his ties in the DMV, very, very strong. What's up, Ali? Yeah, it's tough, man. A lot of rumors were swirling about potentially Washington going after Sean Watson, even Dak Prescott with the him following the team on social media before shortly after unfollowing. But Sean Watson, I do think the management, the current infrastructure right now in the front office will not trade Deshaun Watson by the time the start of the season comes around. Although I don't know if Deshaun Watson is going to play another game in a Texans uniform. So if you think about it, right, that equals a Deshaun Watson holdout, which I don't know. That's a lot of money that he's given up by potentially holding out. So we'll see. Maybe they'll find a way to mend, any sort of the amount of tension that they have right now, which is very high. And I don't know, man. I really don't know. Although I do think that Deshaun Watson will not be playing for the Chicago Bears or Washington football team. I see by the time the season comes around. Dak Prescott is a whole different story. I think Dak Prescott, Washington has a very good chance of potentially going after him and signing him. I really believe that. I mean, his brother talks about it all the time, but they don't like their current situation in Dallas. I know you said that you can't think of Dak not being in a Cowboys uniform, and I'm kind of the same mindset, even though I absolutely hate the Cowboys, probably as much as you hate the Packers. But yeah, I think he has a good chance, good shot of potentially, coming here in DC and definitely making us Super Bowl contenders. At that point, we have arguably a top 10-ish defense, maybe even higher than that. Especially when you look at the stats. Terry McLaurin, I would say we do need to add at the receiver position, but if we do that, sign Dak Prescott, we have the money to do it. Look out, man! Look out!
Dak
is going to hear end of me talking about my team. Yeah.
Yeah, Dak is going to have to sit down. He's going to have to decide whether or not he wants to be the Cowboys quarterback or whether or not he wants to be a winner. And I think that's what it'll come down to.
Yeah, it's facts. I do agree with this take, though. I mean, Jerry Jones, 78 years old. He's getting up there in age. I mean, but then again, he doesn't seem like he really loves Dak Prescott, right? At least as much as he showed for Tony Romo, right? Who I don't think deserved it. But yeah, I don't know. It's a whole messed up situation in Dallas right now. And then you add in the franchise tag, which I don't think would be a smart move because as Washington football team fans, we know all too well from the whole Kirk Cousins situation. That, to me, means he's gone after the season if you franchise tag him. But, he would be nice. Yeah, Ali, again, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, J.D. McKissick, Tony Gibson. We have some weapons, so should be good. But, yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. One last thing. What about Mitchell Trubisky? Do you think he'll potentially be in the NFC North, or do you think where do you think he'll end up, period?
Oh, man. If you want to know where I think he'll end up, where I would love to see him end up, is the Jets. There would be nothing better than to see him on the Jets, losing games only to get replaced by a rookie quarterback. As a Bears fan, that would feel great. That would be confirmation that it wasn't just the Bears. that it was at least a little bit Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh, Paul, man. Well, I was hoping that Dwayne Haskins went to a winning team, so he could potentially, do well in this league and potentially earn himself a spot in the NFL for a long time. You want Mitchell Trubisky to just rot in New York with the Jets as is. Yeah, man, I have no idea where Mitchell Trubisky will end up. I really don't. But I agree with you. I don't think he'll end up with the Bears. I just think, the writing's on the wall. They're looking for a different quarterback, and rightfully so. I do. Two last questions. We'll save the draft for future videos. I mean, we get to the draft every single week, so we'll save that. But I will say Micah Parsons, Christian Darrisaw, all these guys, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, all these guys, great fits in DC. Also great fits in Chicago, maybe offensive lineman for Chicago. I think you probably agree at this point. But having said that, two last questions. One, outside of the two teams that are currently in the Super Bowl this year, who do you think are Super Bowl contenders? They can be, teams that we're already talking about as those contenders right now, or they could be dark horse contenders. Who do you think by the time the 2021 season is over with will be there and at the end of the season, still having hope that they'll win the Super Bowl trophy?
I think one team that is just a quarterback away, they're Deshaun Watson away from just being there in the Super Bowl is Miami.
Hold on, Paul. Go football. Paul was talking about him. That was his guy that Washington should go after and should be a starter.
Minshew mania. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But I think Miami, if they can pull off the Deshaun Watson trade, they could trade anything. They could trade their entire team. They could trade their practice facility, their washing machines. I don't care. If they could get Deshaun Watson, Miami all day, I'll be putting money on the Miami Dolphins to win the Super Bowl. Because I think that division is pretty wide open.
Yeah.
And
although
I think the Bills, I think my dark horse team to underperform, I think is the Bills.
Wow.
I think Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs showed a real connection. But as we know, Stephon Diggs is liable to be a little inconsistent. And I was personally surprised he was so consistent last year.
DMV morning.
So I think it's a really volatile situation. If Stephon Diggs isn't performing well, I really think the Bills could fall off. They're still a playoff team, but they have to, overperform what they did last year, which I think is going to be a really tough task.
Yeah. I would differ with you though with the Bills. I think they'll be right back to where they were this year with some more weapons. They have some more money to spend, even with Stephon Diggs being in town. So I think the Bills will actually be back. But some contenders that I have, and I think, I don't know why, but for some reason, they're still a dark horse, even after the trade that they made. But the Rams literally had one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the entire NFL. They have one of the best receiving cores in Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and all the other guys that they have. Van Jefferson, I believe. They have some Josh Reynolds, I believe, is the other guy. They have a very, very, very solid high-end receiving core at the very top, and also when it comes to depth, very good. Tight ends aren't too bad. Offensive line isn't too bad. And then they actually have a quarterback, like a legit quarterback. I know Jared Goff, everybody's going to talk about the season that he had a couple years back, where he led them to the Super Bowl and was really good. Him and Todd Gurley formed a nice connection before Todd Gurley's knees went out pretty much, developed that arthritis. But no, Jared Goff was not good the last couple of seasons. If you actually watch the Rams play, and now they have Matthew Stafford, I just think the Rams are, I think they could potentially win the Super Bowl. And actually, I made this prediction on Twitter right after the Matthew Stafford trade was made. I can see the Rams being the 2021 Bucs. I really believe that they can be, with all the weapons that they have on offense and defense. They finally have a quarterback, right, that will actually help them win games. And everybody talks about Matthew Stafford's record and Detroit, but you as a Bears fan know that Detroit Lions are just a mess of a franchise, and you can't throw all the blame on Stafford. And he actually didn't have a defense for much of his career, and didn't also have a running back room, period, for much of his career, which we'll have. So.
That's the only trepidation I have with picking the Rams. is that it's going to be a massive system change for Matt Stafford, who's used to his whole career just chucking the ball downfield to big receivers.
What about Brady though? I know he's the GOAT, but like still.
That is true. And Brady took some getting used to for him to throw those balls downfield versus just checkdowns. So I wonder how it's going to go with Sean McVay, where they have all these different run schemes and, they have everything going on behind the line of scrimmage versus Matt Stafford, who just, was just chucking the ball downfield all day. I'll believe it when I see it, I guess, how those two fit together. But if they can make it work and they can throw the ball downfield like Matt Stafford was doing with the Lions, I think that, for sure, Super Bowl contenders.
Okay. I will say, though, once it clicks for Matthew Stafford, look out for the Rams. I'm telling you, look out for the Rams. Dolphins, agree with you. Especially, I don't know if Tua is the starting quarterback. We'll see, man. And it's kind of sad because I like to keep this on the low, but I am a big Bama fan. Paul knows that. Roll Tide. And Tua, though, I don't know, man. I didn't like what I saw out of him last year, but it was his rookie year, so I do see some improvement out of him this year coming. So we'll see about the Dolphins. But, I mean, elsewhere they have their defense. They have their running backs. They have their receivers. I mean, they're obviously going to add, right, because they have a boatload of money still, which is crazy to think because they spent so much last year. But, I see the Dolphins as well. Also, a lot of people forget about them. But, I mean, it all depends on the quarterback. I have the caveat, 49ers. I mean, everybody's coming back healthy. Yes. Yeah, everybody's coming back healthy.
Like you just said, though, in the division with the Rams and the Seahawks with Russell Wilson and the Cardinals, who are improving, getting better every year. It's hard for me to pick them to, they're probably not even going to win the division. So are you going to pick them as a wild card team, as a dark horse, I guess? Maybe.
Seven teams in the playoffs. Yeah, NFC. But so I did add the caveat, though, if they get that quarterback. And when I say get that quarterback, I don't mean they have to get a Deshaun Watson or like a Dak Prescott. Just a quarterback that is, at least somewhat better than the current quarterback that they have right now in Jimmy G, who is just not it. But I can see the 49ers, potentially contending. I really do. If not being a very good team coming off of the injuries, Paul, remember how many injuries they had last year?
Catastrophic injuries.
Yeah, catastrophic. So we'll see. But after the 49ers and the Rams, I like the Browns. I mean, you might not like them. Well, I don't know, but the Browns, I mean, they were building something, man. We saw it. We saw it towards the tail end of the season. Baker Mayfield, it just clicked for him. We talked about, potentially clicking for Matthew Stafford this season. It just clicked for Baker Mayfield. I mean, he was a much better quarterback without Odell Beckham, and maybe OBJ will be traded this year, potentially to Washington. We'll see, or maybe even your team, the Bears. I mean, but that's a lot of money that's already tied up with him, so I don't know about that. But I think the Browns, man, another year of progression for Baker Mayfield, which we'll probably see, in the new system that was installed, and another year of progression from that defense. Probably add some pieces. I mean, they have money. I could see the Browns, potentially vying for a chance at the Super Bowl. I really believe that. And then lastly, you know what? Actually, I'll save this team. Last question. Unless you have any other thoughts on the picks that I made.
Oh, I was just going to say, as much as I hate to admit it, any Aaron Rodgers-led team, it's probably going to be the Packers. But if he tries to force his way out, here we are, Packers. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is getting older. He's performing at an extremely high level, obviously MVP level. However, he knows he has to win soon.
Yeah.
He knows he has to win eventually again. So I especially if he somehow moves teams, or even if he stays with the Packers, I hate to do it. I hate to pick the Packers, but I have to give credit where credit is due here.
Yeah. Definitely agree. I think the Packers, for the first time in a long time, will actually be aggressive. If not in free agency, then maybe in the draft, and actually give this man's Aaron Rodgers some weapons, because we all know they've wasted his prime for way too long, man. Like, imagine the Bears had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, like, on their team, man. You can say whatever you want about their front office. I think they would have built around him at least somewhat the right way, or at least better than the Packers. So, but last but not least, as I like to save for the last question every single weekly live stream, what do you make? And I'll add because you are from Chicago and there are other teams than the Bears in Chicago, what do you make of the future of not only your favorite team, the Bears, but your respective sports franchises in Chicago? And I'll get my thoughts on DC, of course. But what are your thoughts, man? You see championship coming with any of the teams, or sad times?
So since we're talking about the NFL, I'll start with the Bears. It seems like a very bad situation, like you were talking about, with all the money tied up. Khalil Mack is getting older, and not only is he getting older, in some of the games he didn't seem very effective unless Akeem Hicks was in there with him. And that is what worries me the most, because Akeem Hicks is liable to get hurt for a couple of games this season, and then Khalil Mack is drawing all the attention, and we're just useless. And that is what hurts me as a Bears fan. It feels like the defense itself is falling apart. The quarterback situation is unsure. I think the only chance we have to win anytime soon is if Aaron Rodgers forces his way out of the Packers. I can't see any universe where the Bears get anywhere close to winning the division with Aaron Rodgers.
Do you think Jordan Love could be his heir apparent, though, like in a real legit way? I mean,
well, I've yet to see that. I've yet to see that. I would have to see that with my own eyes. But obviously the Bears would have a better shot if Jordan Love were, under center. So I'm not very optimistic about the Bears, and it really pains me. The whole Allen Robinson situation pains me. The defensive situation pains me. For some reason, our inability to draft an offensive line pains me, especially given that we showed that when we do have an offensive line, we can get the run game going and start to win games. But the direction concerns me. Now, what I'm not concerned about, what I'm very happy about, is my Chicago Bulls.
Oh no. Okay.
Now, I'm going to use, in his press conference after being announced as an all-star reserve, Zach Levine was talking about not only how happy he is to be a Bull, but how much of a change it is for the coaching staff from between last year and this year. He says that they've totally bought in and they totally respect Billy Donovan. And not only that, they've been on a little bit of a win streak. And not only that, without Lauri Markkanen and without Otto Porter. So if you're a Bulls fan and you look for the next 5 years, you have Zach, Kobe, Wendell Carter, Patrick Williams, the paw, who's showing promise, perhaps Lauri Markkanen if we can keep him. That's a scary lineup for the next couple of years. And then not only that, we're going to lose Otto Porter's massive contract, who, by the way, may as well not even be on the team because he barely plays for us anymore. We're going to lose Cristiano Felicio's $8 million contract, one of the worst possibly in NBA history. Talk about that a different day, I guess. We'll have space to pick up some players. And it does worry me with the Nets being in the East and all, but I still think it could be pretty open in maybe 5 years. And people forget how old Zach Levine is because he won the dunk contest, in one of his first years in the league. He's only 25. People forget that. At least, well, his defense has picked it up a little. There are a lot of players who can't play defense. So
That's true.
And that's why we drafted the paw, Patrick Williams, to play defense for us. So the only concerns I have are re-signing Lowry because he might go somewhere else. And we have too many forwards, too many veterans. Thaddeus Young's, Garrett Temple getting old. Also a player like Daniel Gafford, we don't know what to do with. I could talk forever about the Bulls. Daniel Gafford, I think, is great. It's almost like a Taj Gibson player in my mind, but it's getting like 1 minute a game. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I could talk about the Bulls forever, but I'm optimistic. The Blackhawks and the Cubs. Oh my goodness. So I will really quickly describe. The Blackhawks pulled off the dynasty. They won Stanley Cups, but they refused to trade their aging stars for young talent, for drafts, and for prospects. And it's killed us because you watch the offensive firepower that was the Blackhawks just slowly slow down, and the league get faster, and we're just going so slow. We're skating around so slow. We're getting killed. But we're still a mediocre team, so nothing is changing. And I'll use that in analogy to the Cubs. The Cubs wanted to build a dynasty like the Blackhawks. We wanted, to win multiple World Series. That's why we kept our stars. But we couldn't even do that. So not only are we left without a dynasty for the Chicago Cubs, but we have the exact same problem where we refuse to trade away our star players for prospects. So we're just constantly a mediocre team that's just going to continuously get worse, get slower, and just with no hope for the future. And it saddens me to say, but the Sox are now, Chicago's baseball team, unfortunately. They're going to take over. Not only do they have the young talent, I think in the newest MLB rankings, they have like the most players in the top 100. I think tied with maybe the Mets. Granted,
Lucas Giolito is one of the former Nat.
Yeah. Granted, not near the top 100, but the Sox have what the Cubs don't have now, which is a lot of talent and a lot of fun and a lot of swag. And it pains me. If you're a Bulls fan, you should be very excited. If you're a Sox fan, you should be really excited. But everything else is a whole lot of despair, in my opinion.
Dang. Yeah, man. I'll keep my Washington football team take, I guess. Make sure it's very short because a lot of people in the chat already know. But I see big things out of the Washington football team, man. I just think for the first time in my life, in our lives, Washington football team is actually legit heading in the right direction. And when I say that, I mean in terms of right direction, I don't just mean playoff spot. I mean Super Bowl championship. I think the team has all the right pieces, at least on defense. On offense, yes, of course, we need to get the quarterback, much like the Bears. But unlike the Bears, we have a bunch of salary cap room. We can spend however much money we want pretty much in the offseason. Also have a bunch of draft picks that we could, draft really good players with. I just think the sky's the limit for those Washington football team, man. And it really started with Ron Rivera. If you guys check the tape, man, I've literally every single stream, every single video since this man has been hired, since I started this channel, I've been high on Ron Rivera. I thought Ron Rivera was going to turn this ship around once and for all. We've already seen the signs of it, and I think he'll continue to do that, man. Again, Paul, if we end up, I don't think we'll win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, but maybe, down the line, if we win a Super Bowl, man, or get to the Super Bowl or potentially vie for a Super Bowl spot, man, oh my gosh, bro. I can't tell you, I understand Bears fans. Yes, you guys deal with so much and front office is so bad and quarterback situation obviously messed up with the pick, but dude, it's just drama here in DC and losing. So when you combine those two things, man, it's just torture every single fall. And last fall was the first time in a long time where I didn't just think that success that we had was a temporary thing. I thought, this is the start of something. We're seeing the start of something, and man, it's giving me chills just thinking of what we can do. And I'm excited to see, what we do in the offseason and the players that we acquire. But I'm very much hopeful for the Washington football team and what we do. With the other teams, I do want to shout out BG fan all day, Skins fans all day, Joey Logano as well. I do want to say with the Wizards, the Wizards are pretty much, I wouldn't say the Cubs of the NBA, but in the sense that they've been mediocre. They've been hovering around for pretty much the last decade, minus the last couple of years where they've just been atrocious because of John Wall being out, but pretty much been hovering around, being mediocre. But I just don't think the Wizards have any chance of making it to the NBA Finals anytime soon. You mentioned the Nets. There's so many good teams in the East, so many good teams in the West, so many good teams in the NBA in general. So I just don't think the Wizards, I just don't think there's a lot of hope there. Maybe, playoffs, yes, but when it comes to strictly, yeah, go ahead.
They have no direction. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason to the moves necessarily. The Westbrook move doesn't make sense for the future. Obviously, you have to re-sign, the Bertans, but it just I don't really see what's happening. I don't see the end goal. That's what worries me most about the Wizards. I think you agree with that.
Yeah, I do. The other teams, Caps, as long as the grade 8, one of the best hockey players of all time, is on our team, I think we always have a shot of being Stanley Cup contenders. And, obviously the last couple of games, the Caps have reached a rough patch in their season, but early in the season they were, riding a hot streak, and I think the Caps will, shortly get into the swing of things in the season. I think they'll start racking up the W's as they usually do in the regular season, but it always comes down to the playoffs, right? 3 years ago now. Wow, 3 years ago now, we finally broke the glass and really won us a Stanley Cup championship with Alex Ovechkin in town. But really, the story of his career has been a lot of regular season success and then failure in the postseason. And hopefully, the last couple of years we've done that, not been really too good in the playoffs, but hopefully now we actually might do, a similar run that we had in 2018. We'll see. But I love the Caps, and Caps should be good. And again, as long as we have Alex Ovechkin in the grade 8, we should be good. And last but not least, this team, the Nats. So both of our teams won a World Series in the last, 5 years, right? 5-6 years. My team most recently, obviously, in 2019. And, last time we've had a full MLB season. So I like to say they're still the reigning champs. But Nats, man, it's tough because they have a lot of aging veterans on their team. But for some reason, I cannot lose trust in Mike Rizzo, man. He just finds a way to get it done every single season. We're at least vying for playoffs every single year, if not more. And as we saw a couple years back, man, if we just have the right pieces, if, Juan Soto, man, you know how much I love Juan Soto. Juan Soto is a beast, man, and I'm glad that he's in town, and hopefully we sign him soon and get him, a contract that's very similar to Tatis or some of the other guys because, otherwise it's going to be very costly. But Juan Soto, the three-headed monster that we still have at the pitching position with Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg, Patrick Corbin, I think we're set up for a lot of success, in the immediate future at least. I don't know about long-term because we don't really have a good farm system right now. Not too many good young players outside of Juan Soto and Trey Turner, which are very good players, but, outside of them, not very good depth. So I don't know about long-term, but short-term, I think the Nats still could be a contender in the NL East at least, but hopefully even more than that, maybe make the playoffs, make a run, and maybe capture another World Series championship. I don't think it's likely at this point, but I think, they still have a legit chance, unlike the Wizards and pretty much the Wizards at this point. So, yeah. Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I have two quick things to say. One is to address the recent news of Tiger Woods. And I will just say, ever since Kobe's passing, the world has just been awful. And thank goodness, Tiger Woods is okay. Yeah. And also thank goodness that his, the tragic accident happened in the morning, but the news reporting didn't happen until the afternoon. Because what worries me most for these situations is if you're Charlie Woods and you had just golfed with your dad in the father-son tournament, and then you find out over the news that his life is in danger over a car crash, I can't even imagine. So thank goodness that it didn't get reported till later that his family, his family probably, it seemed like it was handled much better than obviously, and the outcome is so much better than the Kobe situation. Just, it would have been too much to lose, another GOAT to lose, Tiger. So thank goodness that is one. It's a tragedy, but you have to be thankful for the outcome. Sure. And then one message to the Washington football team fans is I will say to cherish not just the opportunity to win, but being on top of the division. Living as a Bears fan and having Aaron Rodgers all my childhood just ruined my dreams. Yeah, you're never the favorite in Chicago with Aaron Rodgers up north. But right now, because of the defense, Washington football team, by far in control of this, NFC least division. Yeah. So I will just say cherish while you have it, this defense and this, chokehold on the division.
Man, that's some of the best words I've ever heard on one of these streams, Paul. Thank you so much, bro, for joining, man. It's been really fun. One of the most fun streams that we've had for sure. And man, it should be interesting to see what the offseason has in store for both of our football teams. And if the Wizards can get back in the playoff hunt, if the Bulls, keep it going and really make a run, we'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMV Sports Zone channel, where we try to post fire content on here as much as possible. Also, go give our Instagram page a follow at the MV Sports Zone. As Paul knows, we try to post fire content on there as much as possible as well. And just one last shout out to all the people in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining. Protech Sports, Patrick West, Ali, hail to the football team, everybody, Brandon, Derek Hawkins earlier, B Nizzle, Kibbs, everybody. Appreciate all the support, and trust me, we got much more in store on this channel. So thank you guys once again, and have a great rest of your night and a great rest of your week. Peace.